And so there's been a lot of focus on how the public sector part of this is bad and corrupt. And the answer that we're being led to is, oh, well, let's just put it all in the hand of the private sector. But the World Economic Forum is the private sector, and they've created these public-private partnerships because it converts the nation state into the enabling environment for all of these policies developed by, unelected oligarchs who are stealing people's wealth through these insane wealth transfers and are the people that ultimately control, the Federal Reserve, for example. The Federal Reserve is seen as, the central bank. It's a state-connected entity. To an extent, I guess that's true. But people should know in the U.S. that it's commercial banks like J.P. Morgan and Citigroup that really own and run the Fed. And people forget that. So if you're going to move from, Jerome Powell to Jamie Dimon, I don't really see there being any functional difference in what that means for the common person. You know what I mean? And so essentially what's going on here is that you're having a mix of both happening here. And, if they're not going to succeed in selling programs through the public sector, they're going to go to the private and be like, let the free market decide. But these are not free market people. These are career financial criminals. These are like the Drexel Burnham Lambert goons. And people like that, engineering new ways to engage in blatantly illegal financial activity and fraud and steal. And that's what a lot of these Wall Street giants have been doing for a long time with complete impunity. And the idea that they should, be given full free rein to do that just because public sector bad, that's the trap I think they want us to fall into. And unfortunately, these are the same guys that we know what they've done before, and they're financing this stuff now. So in addition to Richard Sander, you've Michael Milken himself, a big junk bond guy. He's all in for the Sustainable Development Goals. The person that ran his crypto initiatives is now running Algorand, which is getting involved with this kind of stuff as well, with stable coins and efforts to implement CBDCs. They're partnered with some of the people we talk about in this piece. Koi Bank specifically trying to get involved in El Salvador's digital money paradigm, among other things. That's a bit unnerving. And then, of course, you have Craig Kogut, who was directly involved in the junk bond department of Drexel Burnham Lambert as well. He directly finances several of the groups that helped create this Green Plus program, and is also financially entangled with the head of Satellogic, the satellite company that's underpinning all of this. So these Drexel guys are here in full force. I would argue that, yes, the carbon credit, the voluntary carbon market, is junk bonds on steroids, frankly, because it's being framed as a planetary imperative. We must participate or we will all die, is essentially what they're arguing, right? But it's participating in their grift. These carbon credits have time and time again been exposed, not just by people that don't like, the idea of climate change policy in general, traditionally on the right, but also environmental groups on the left that are like, please govern me harder, daddy, about climate change. They're like, no, carbon markets are bad too, because these credits are meaningless, essentially. And it's creating a new market for all of this stuff that they can just essentially looking for new ways to enable them to continue their extreme fiscal irresponsibility
River's the best place to buy Bitcoin. Go to river.com/TFTC, sign up today, set up an account, and start stacking sats. Back to the
private sector and the public sector, and allow them to steal everyone's money and wealth.
Yeah.
I think Craig Kogut and Milken are it's a really good example of this private public partnership cabal thing, because what was the thing? Everyone is cheering for Trump to pardon Assange on his last days in office, and who does he decide to pardon? Michael fucking Milken, who is an absolute, I think Whitney called him a literal ghoul on Twitter the other day, which is absolutely true, a total ghoul. And so Craig Kogut was I believe the lawyer for the junk bonds department, basically, and for Milken, kind of doing this huge fraud. And he, of course, founded Pegasus Capital, Apollo Global Management. Pegasus Capital is one of the main funders of CC35. And before Pegasus Capital funded CC35, Emilio Cargamon, who's the founder of Satellogic, they did a joint venture together under the Pegasus Capital name called a Aconcagua Ventures, which served as
Aconcagua.
Aconcagua Ventures, excuse me, which served as a member of the Special Projects Group for the World Bank. And then, of course, creating Satellogic, which sort of spun out of this core securities technology group, which was co-founded by Kargaman and Riccarde, who's the CTO of Satellogic now, who listed, having clients as like the NSA and NASA, Lockheed Martin, and DARPA, kind of in the late 90s. This group also, Core Security, was connected with the Endeavor Foundation, which comes up all across the board with connections to Reid Hoffman and a bunch of PayPal guys with Marcos Galperin of Mercado Libre, all of these groups. But Craig Kogut, is hugely important in the junk bond scandal. It's like they're not only is it the same mechanisms, just with kind of a blockchain twist, but it's the same people, and it's the same people that are getting. Basically using the government as this enabling environment, using the pardoning power of a banker president and a private sector ghoul like Trump, who did so many things at the behest of private companies, whether it's big pharma, whether it's these banks printing trillions of dollars, locking down the country, pushing vaccines, and basically going in lockstep, basically with the world empire in COVID policy. The last thing he does before he walks at the door is free this ghoul and Michael Milken. So you're really seeing this thing kind of begin to take shape. And another, I think, essential thing in regards to the Trump cabinet and this whole play is stable coins, right? And we talked about this a bunch last time, but specifically there was this letter sent from Kushner to Mnuchin referencing this blog post by Sam Altman about the creation of this USD coin, and using a dollar stable coin, and how this might be an important lever for our cabinet and for our government to sort of take advantage of, to basically perpetuate the treasury market and US dollar denominated liabilities across the world.